All right. Thanks, JJ. Everyone, welcome to the InstructLab weekly community meeting. As usual, we'll start with some housekeeping items just to get everyone acquainted. All our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Code of Conduct, Community Code of Conduct. So please be nice to each other. And the meetings are recorded and will be posted after the meeting to the InstructLab YouTube channel. If you prefer not to be on camera, it's okay. Feel free to join with your camera off, or you can dial in via phone, via the phone. And if you do so, you can ask questions. Feel free to interrupt at the right time. If you're on the Google Meet, please use the raise your hand function to ask questions. And there's also the chat function in Google Meet if you prefer not to come on the mic or camera. So you can use the chat function to comment or ask a question. And the chat transcripts will be published if there's anything in chat. And finally, we have a area at the end of the every meeting. There's a list. You can list yourself as an attendee. We would like to know who are attending these meetings. It's optional, but feel free to do so, so we can get to know all of you. And with that, let's get started. So this past week, with some new posts or articles, Vincent Caldera has written on Medium about building and aligning a local AI stock advisor agent with InstructLab, Podman AI, and LangChain. So there are two parts to it. Those are the links. I hope I got two separate links to the parts and not the same link. So feel free to take a look at that. And then there's also a video with Dan on Tech. I think previously Cedric had one with him talking about InstructLab, but this one is a different one talking about why open source models are better. So it's an interesting video. Feel free to check it out. Call for dev doc reviews. Who put that in, and would you like to take this?
Hey, Carol. That was me. Yeah, I was looking over our dev doc repo recently. I was adding a stalebot action to the repo, and I noticed we have 18 open PRs. So I just want to put out like a very general call of like, if you are interested in helping steer sort of more of the development side of the project, technical decisions, policy decisions, come to release and stuff, we're soliciting some reviews on those PRs, see if we can maybe start merging some of those in. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. I realize some of the topics may not be topics people are comfortable writing it on or feel knowledgeable about. So by all means, like, no pressure. Just wanted to highlight that. Martin, you want to add something? No?
Marty.
Maybe not.
Or on your mute.
This is when you hit the wrong button and you take down your hand. Sorry.
No worries.
There's a percentage of those where people have reviewed the docs, but the OP hasn't come back. So, you know, what I'd say to OPs is maybe you've forgotten, that's grand. But if you're going to put a doc up there and people are going to put time into reviewing it, you should be more reactive, or proactive, I should say. So if you've put up a doc up in the OP, please go to your docs and see if people have reviewed your docs and come back in the comments on that. Because, when you're reviewing some of these docs, there's quite a lot of time you put into that, reviewing it and stuff. And it's a bit frustrating when they just sit there and they're sat there for some of them like for 2 months and stuff or more. So I think we need to get a handle on that. And I suppose the other thing too as well is that, if you put a design doc up there, there's nothing wrong about writing code in parallel with that, but you shouldn't circumvent the dev doc. So what I mean by that is, just because you think it should go some other way and you don't agree with what's happening, I think dev docs need to be okayed before code gets pushed in, is what I'm saying. So if we're going to have this process, we should go by this, we should adhere to this process, not sometimes just going around the process for the sake of it. So they'd be my 2 bits on that.
Yeah, honestly, kind of building off of that, and I'm not actually sure if we have a policy around this, but it's worth I think it's worth asking. Do we need a level of consensus for a dev doc to get merged? Do we have like a maintainer or oversight committee requirement for these things? I'm honestly not aware, because I've had a few PRs that have been open and I've gotten reviews on them, but I haven't gone back because I've gotten maybe 1 or 2 reviews for things that feel like I should be getting more feedback on them before I go through and address everyone's feedback. And part of that's on me probably for not socializing some of them more, but I'm also not exactly sure what goalpost I'm trying to reach to get this to be something that is merged in and made sort of our org policy. I don't know if we have any guidance or governance around that, but that would be something I'd be curious about.
JJ?
Yeah, I can take that one, Nathan.
Yeah.
Last time we discussed this as the project process.
Yeah.
From what I remember, when we first set everything up and we were, full steam ahead, everyone was jumping in to make this stuff work. The idea was the oversight committee would be the escalation point of something like this, where the idea is that hopefully the dev doc would have enough consensus with the people who are the investors in it, the people who are the people who are knowledgeable in that space, because it's unrealistic for you to ask me about Kafka, or I know Kafka's not part of the project, but if it was a dev doc about Kafka, right, like that's not going to work for me. So we would look at the experts to merge that and then agree on consensus there. But if they were like, well, we're not too sure, then it gets bumped up to the oversight committee where we could discuss it. We've never gone through that process, mainly because we haven't needed to, because obviously history. So I think that was kind of the handshake agreement of what was going to happen, but we've just never gotten to that point. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I think, for my part, for the ones I have open, I can go through and address comments now. I guess I guess that might be just something that we need to make more visible to people. Because I hear you, and I'm in on the meeting and I'd get that, but if I was sort of like a community contributor that maybe wasn't part of the conversation and I was making some sort of design proposal, then I might be a little confused about that. But I think that's fair. This is still a very young project, and we're still working through a lot of this stuff. At one point, this was just called the enhancements repo. We ended up changing it to dev docs because that sort of felt more intuitive. So even that was upped at one point. Oh, Martin's got a link here. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, that's actually documented.
What is documented?
If you read the governance when you land on the page, it says exactly what to do. It doesn't have to go to the oversight committee unless we're doing something really over the top. I think the big thing, if you go through, I think if you go through today and you do a quick, a triaging of the dev docs, you'll see our biggest problem is, or not our biggest problem, but some of our problems is that there hasn't been enough response back from the OPs sometimes on the dev docs. So they're kind of sitting there after comments and so forth. So, I don't think it's anything big, like we're waiting on, X amount of people to say yes. It's generally around, comments have been given back. And this is the thing about the dev docs as well, and it's the same as the HIP that we had in Helm, or it's I can't remember what the name of it's called in Python, and the KEP inside in Kubernetes, is that the whole idea of this is that somebody, we're getting, somebody doesn't go off doing something that we may not agree with, and they may have spent a lot of time writing code or doing some big contribution. So the idea here is that, we get a proper explanation what they're trying to do, where they're trying to do it, if we agree or not. So I think that's the big thing on that. So, and maybe, it's hard for folks that you know, you might put something forward and you might be very passionate and you might think it's, you know, it's the thing that's really needed, but sometimes there might be reasons why we don't want to go down that route. So I think if you put up, I think to help us to clean some of the backlog, if you've put up any dev docs, and it's easy to filter on your name, to just go and have a look and see where they are and see if can it be progressed on, or are you going to take the comments on board, or can it be closed, basically?
Yeah, no, very good point, Martin. Thank you for pointing this out. I totally missed this, which is 100% on me. I also like the point that Carol made in chat here, which is that maybe it's worth having a maintainers of the dev docs, so that not every merge needs to be done by a member of the oversight committee. Because the one thing I am noticing from that is, like, we can have the we can go through this sort of back and forth on the process, but I think it's saying, well, I guess it's just for a non-trivial change. It needs to be the merge needs to be done by the oversight committee. But yeah, I think yeah, going through, I for my part will go through and check the ones that I'm the OP on. It may be worth putting something out on our community Slack or something to call on others that have open dev docs, so we can maybe get more traction on those. But yeah, this is exactly why I kind of wanted to highlight this in the meeting, so I'm glad we're talking about it.
I just want to jump in and say real quick, if you didn't know what OP means, that's original poster. I know that it's an internet thing that some people might not know. Just want to throw that out there.
Thanks,
Good
JJ.
point. Thanks.
BJ?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if this is mentioned already, but of course, during the big crunch to get 18 out, right, everything else was sort of suppressed. And so I think we need to almost at some level relaunch the project to get people back to contributing and doing things, as opposed to just waiting for things to be done. So I think maybe that's part of the issue why people have ignoring dev docs, is they were told to stand down because everyone was so busy doing stuff to get 18 done that they had no time for anything else.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's another reason that I brought it up here. I mean, this is where me trying to bring up stuff. The same with when I was bringing up the community PR that has been up for a while last week. I'm sort of trying to slowly bring these things up, kind of in the spirit of exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, very good points. I'm thinking since now we have 0.18 out, we're probably at a good point, because with the recent changes and everything, to kind of relaunch, like BJ suggested, to do a new push for the project with the new information and demos and whatnot. So
I am going to one last thing on this topic before we move on, unless others, of course, want to talk more about it. But I'm going to introduce a stale bot to the dev docs as well. We have this in a lot of our other repos, taxonomy, CLI, etc. So I'll be putting up a PR for that pretty soon. It'll be the same sort of pretty loose amount of time. I think we're doing 90 days for something to be marked stale, another 30 if it were to be closed automatically. But yeah, I'm going to put that up as something for that as well.
Cool.
So an easy one to review. Yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead, JJ.
Can I suggest 60 and 30? Because then that'll be a total of 90 days.
Absolutely.
That seems more reasonable, because then we learned on the taxonomy side, the stale bot that we were using, we misinterpreted the numbers, and it was stuff that was around for a lot longer than it should have been. So
okay. Yeah, I'll do that 1630 for sure.
Cool. Any more comments on this? All right, let's get on with office hours.
That's me. Hey y'all. So I know if you don't know, we have on Thursdays on the community counter, we have posted office hours. One for EMEA and then the other one for the US. I don't know off the top of my head what the EMEA is. I think it's like 3 a.m. my time, so that doesn't help anyone by saying that out loud, but I said it anyway. 4 p.m. Central for US. I understand that people are starting to use 18 again, so please, if you have questions, please come to them. The attendance has been very low for the last couple months. I've been in a room by myself a few times. So I'm asking people to show up. I want to give people 2 more times. So this week and next week. Otherwise, I think I'm going to ask to deprecate or take these off the schedule, because having an hour sitting by myself is not great. But again, if you think it's valuable, please show up on Thursday, either this week or next week, just so I can see that people still want this. I know for a fact I have successfully gotten 18 to fine tune a model on my own actual laptop with success with the model with actual new knowledge. So I do have good experience in this space now. So if you have questions or thoughts, please don't hesitate to come by. Any questions?
So for the email side, we've had pretty low attendance, but usually there's like 1 or 2 people joining each time. So, but we're also discussing whether it could be like we put them on pause for a while, and because I think this community meeting plus CLI, UI, taxonomy meetings, we have enough meetings to cover a lot of different topics, and where people can also ask questions. Maybe not so much walk through the whole thing on a one-to-one basis, which is kind of what these office hours can be quite useful for. But we can, direct people to the other meetings for now and resume office hours when we see a demand for that increase. But Marty, please.
Yeah, just got a question on why aren't it? Is it possible to maybe make the taxonomy more EMA friendly, time-wise?
That's a great question. I can bring that up during the taxonomy call today. I know the majority of the team, that was like the only time that everyone could agree on. So we can propose some more times to try to work on our EMEA friends.
My suggestion on it might be, I don't know, is it 4 days a week or 5 days a week at the moment? Maybe pick a time for 1 day in the week, and maybe find a slot there that would work, because if there are people going to come in from EMA and want to do taxonomy, then they're going to be slightly put off with it, like I would imagine. But yeah, I'd say probably now is the time to maybe stand back and look at it, because back then it was kind of more a case of, we were on in a, everything was kicking off the ground all over the place. Whereas now, I suppose we need to, look more at, setting times that basically are inclusive to everybody, but also at the fact then, like saying that, sometimes you're going to have to bend yourself around that. And that's the way we've always worked in communities anyway, from our, we've got our work thing where we're paid, but then getting out to communities, then the set time is for that, and you just have to adapt around that time. So yeah.
It's a very reasonable request, Marty. I'll bring it up in the call today and work from there.
Yeah, thanks.
So JJ, you plan to have it for 2 more weeks and then reevaluate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's, or at least on the US side. On the US side, I'm going to give 2 more times. I'm trying to shame people from to show up to see if it's still valuable. I'm not going to pull any punches. If people don't want it, it's fine. If people want it, even better.
I think we can do the same on the email side. So and come back in 2 weeks and see how it goes. Cool. For those who have attended the office hours, do you find them useful, or what would you want to see more, or like any comments on what you want to get from it, and if you got the results that you're looking for? I know for the email one, I'm usually the one being there because Leslie has much more important. Well, she's on PDO and she's had other stuff taking up her time. So, and I may not have the the depth of the technical knowledge to answer some questions. So I have been redirecting people to the CLI meeting and taxonomy meetings. So, are there other comments or any thoughts about people who have attended office hours and what you think about them? Or feel free to ping me and JJ offline if you want. You don't have to share it right away.
I think what might be really helpful and useful for this meeting and the office hours, and I haven't been able to attend the office hours because it's late for me, but is to get like an update on each of the different aspects of the project. I think would be kind of helpful, and just keep people up to date on what's going on.
Yes, JJ.
Hey, Joe, that was what this meeting is supposed to be for.
Yeah, I think this is the meeting for that.
Okay.
And we have been doing, UI updates, CLI updates, taxonomy updates. Not every week for everything, but when maybe stuff happens. BJ.
Yeah, sort of the follow on to Joe's sort of inquiry. It would be interesting if there was, and maybe this is the right forum, but to have a roadmap. What's next, right? There are many piece parts to the overall InstructLab project. There's the CLI, there's eval, training, SDG, and of course we just had this big old push to get 18 out. So what's next? What's the plan? What are the goals? What are the big items we want to hit in the coming months and years? And it's there. Hopefully there's some people thinking about that and have some ideas, but it would be good to get that put down in a dev doc or something and socialized to the broader community so people know which direction this boat is going.
Yes, Costa, I think you have a similar point.
I would like to join to the question. I've just posted the question in the Slack, not just maybe 2 days, one day ago, and I'm glad to hear answers to these questions. And you're welcome to get to give an answer in the Slack. Thank you.
Yeah. Good point. I myself would like to have more clarity around that as well when we have that, and we'll definitely share it during this meeting, if we do. Oh yes, agenda. So yeah, very, very good suggestions. It would be nice to have one place we can point people to for updates. Even if you don't join a meeting, we have these meeting notes that you can refer to. So. All right, any more comments about this meeting / office hours topic? If not, let's move on to community model build.
Yeah, it's me again.
All right.
So everyone celebrate. Community model build is started. So if you don't know what the community model build is, that is the build of Granite Lab that's happening to prove to everyone that it is. Hang on one second. That was better, I would have had this already set up, but there it is. It's happening. Yay. So we're calling it community model build now, CMB. We're doing it as best as we can in the open. So as you can see, if you have questions or thoughts, never hesitate to reach out. We have a build branch. It's called CMB run dash the date. You can actually see which PRs we're putting from the upstream taxonomy into it. We have a channel that is right now private, just because we're trying to make sure that if we run into problems, we can get them resolved quickly. But eventually, my goal is to open this all up completely so everybody sees what's happening and we have real automation around it. But everyone, this is what's happening. Yay! It's happening. So
All right.
I wanted to celebrate that.
Virtual toes.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there a plan how frequent this may be going forward?
You're killing me, Carol, asking the hard questions. So right now, this exact moment in time, we are doing this by hand. But as automation builds in, eventually, we will see the cadence as they come in. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit of context of this and like sort of how this is different from sort of the original vision of what we had. So the tooling that we were using to originally do these sort of community model builds was sort of this set of repos we had that was very tailored to sort of the IBM Vela cluster, which was providing the hardware that we were using this for. Obviously, we stopped doing the community model builds for a while because a lot of the maintainer teams were pulled into development work for the CLI tools. So what the community model builds are doing now, and this is now fresh with 0.18, is we're actually using the InstructLab CLI to do these builds rather than sort of the bespoke set of repos we had. So the hope with this is that this is going to tie the community model builds a lot more to the actual development process rather than being them two separate things being done in parallel, so that it sort of cuts two ways in that the community model build can sort of inform features, UX improvements, bugs in the CLI, and then the CLI development can also drive improvements to the models that we are providing to the community. So, so to your question, Carol, as to the frequency, I mean, obviously, I don't want to make any promises because last time we made promises, we broke promises. We don't want to do that. But I think the hope is that this is going to be a lot more of an integrated part of the project development, and so the frequency should be much higher. I think something like weekly would be a great aspiration. I don't think weekly is something that's going to happen soon, but I think depending on, of course, it also depends on the sort of taxonomy contributions we're getting upstream as well. But yeah, I think more frequently than previously is a very realistic goal. Yeah.
Yes, Marty.
Yeah, I'm going to add a caveat there to Nathan because he's put a really bold statement out there, or bold statement, I should say, which is great. But I think it ties again to a conversation we had months ago, Nathan, around finding the frequency of the builds and the publishing of a model will be trial and error till we understand how long the builds take. Yep. Then, what's the frequency of RCs? Do we find problems in that? And when can we lower the number of RCs and then get the publish up onto the particular sites like Hugging Face or wherever else? So I think it's going to be, I'd say, a number of months and stuff before we work out exactly all that, so that we know within, we'll say, 7 days or within 14 days or 12 days, we know we can do a full cycle and get a model up there. So I think there's a few things involved in that if it's going to go fully end to end. But I think it's a great idea that we're coming in through the CLI. I think it's now that the different repos are there, and it's been simplified around the libraries, around data generation and around the tuning and so forth, then it has made this a lot more feasible. But it's required us to learn this as we go along, really, to get there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think also the things like hardware availability, right? Like what hardware do we have available to train the models? I'm not sure what you're doing it on right now, JJ. I think it's a cloud instance, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it's on
yeah.
it's on AWS with H100s, 8 of them.
Oh, nice.
So
Yep.
So right now we're expecting this to take about 48 hours total to get to the point where we can bring in the eval team.
Awesome. Yeah. Because I can also say on the sort of from the Red Hat side of things that we have folks in our performance and scale team that are sort of doing benchmark testing in the sense of seeing how long things take on certain hardware configurations. And, obviously we want to make optimizations as well too, with hardware acceleration. So yeah, the time for training will hopefully be something that will get shorter, not longer. And, but like to emphasize Marty's point, like, hardware is just one factor. This is also going to be, once we train, we want to make sure the models are actually improved. We want the quality of the community models to be improving, not improving. And I think this whole forum could be agreed on. We would rather be putting out good improved models more slowly than sort of spitting out models just for the sake of spitting out models. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Martin.
Yeah, totally, Nathan. JJ, one quick question. So you think it might take 48 hours? I suppose when you go through your first run, but then you probably need X amount of runs to know consistently wise how long it takes, probably.
Yes, exactly. But we are what's the word? Iterating on this, which I know is going to take a long time. But we want to go through the whole build process first with a thing to say that we've actually know who to reach out to, who to get to where, to a point where like we have not, the build team that exists right now has not actually gone through this process from beginning to end. So we're fumbling our way through with this, and I'm just celebrating that we've actually got hardware and actually started building the thing. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, but I want to level set with people that might be listening into this day and say, okay, grand, we've built here again, everything's running, we're flying. We're at the start of the iceberg here, and the level set here is that in case you're new around AI and stuff, that to tune models like this, they're beasts. They need the hardware. They use big hardware, and that it's finding the inflection point of where the level of hardware within a relative amount of hours that aren't going into 5-6 days kind of thing is going to be the big part of this.
Yep.
Gagan, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. You have your hand up just now?
Yes. Hey,
yes.
Thanks. So there was a proposal from the Office of CTO to deploy community model on MOC. So this thing somehow got lost because folks were working on a lot of other things. I just wanted to bring it up again. This may be, I think this is a question for JJ. So what do you think is the plan moving forward? Like, is it going to be running on AWS, or are you open to explore other avenues to actually deploy this?
First of all, I don't have access to that document, but I can answer the MOC conversation. There's many. I think Nathan has more details on this because he was actually on the threads. But the TLDR of it is the MOC is waiting on some very specific hardware. Massachusetts Open Cloud is waiting for some very specific hardware that should be released to them in the coming months, that we can actually run what was required to do the community model build. That's the reason why we went to AWS first, to open up the pipeline, if you will, so we can actually start iterating before moving to the MOC. Nathan, is that right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I know I'm not personally involved, but I know folks that I assume that you're referring to the efforts within Red Hat to do this. Yes. So I mean, there are folks at Red Hat that are specifically taking care of this. I think more so than I'm not sure. JJ would actually be able to say this. I don't know how much of this is being driven by the Red Hat team internally, and how much is this being driven sort of more from the community aspect. I can connect you with some folks internally that are working on that on the Red Hat side. And this is to the point of I'm not sure who's really driving this more so, but
yeah, Nathan, I can pick up from there. I can tell you that it will happen. Yeah. Gagan, I can tell you it will happen. It's just right now at this exact moment in time, we just the resources and the it is not. Let's put it this way: it is not falling through the cracks. We are just trying to get ahead of the curve. So when it is ready for us to move over to it, it'll be ready to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Gagan, if you want, I can feel free to message me on Slack, and I can point you towards some folks at Red Hat that are involved in that actively. If it's something you have an interest or stake in.
Okay, I will do. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. That's why we have these meetings, to sync the right people together. All right. Yeah, I've also heard about the proposal to run to have InstructLab on MOC. So is it Massachusetts or Mass Open Cloud?
So it was Massachusetts before, but now they call themselves as Mass Open Cloud because it has expanded to other universities in other states as well. So
right, makes sense.
Cool. It is both Massachusetts and massive.
Awesome. All right. That's a good note to end on. Is there any other topics somebody would like to bring up? If not, remember we have taxonomy meetings every day, but Tuesday and Thursdays are the main ones. UI meetings on Wednesdays and CLI meetings on Thursdays. And we will have office hours for the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, and we'll see how it goes, how they go, and decide if we want to continue with them or make other changes. Yes, Costa. Is that up or down? You're on mute if you are trying to speak.
Yes, right. Speaker. Okay, so I would like to raise again the question about direction and stages. For example, yesterday GG wrote that we are going to switch to granite instead of merlinite. Maybe. So the question is, what are coming changes in directions?
Do we already have granite as the default model to train on?
I think the default right now is a merlinite GGUF, which I think is being talked about getting changed to granite, since the community model builds will be focused on granite.
So I guess if we make these changes to like the default model, we should probably announce that, and so that people can keep up to date with the changes. Costa, are you asking?
I mean, the default is just a configuration.
True, right? But
it can be when you init, you're prompted to set a default model. So if you want to keep using merlinite, you're absolutely able to keep using merlinite. It's just the default, if you don't specify something, might switch to granite. I mean, I'm not even saying definitively this is going to happen, but
yeah,
these are sort of configuration details.
Right. Yeah. So Costa, are you asking like where you can find more info about this kind of directions and changes, updates, or do you want to be joining the discussions that are related to these?
It's enough to know more about plans, and then I can find out where it's better to join and to help to cooperate. And not only for me.
Yes, JJ.
Costa, I think I think Nathan just threw that in there too. I think a lot of the conversations that you're looking for, we're looking at the milestones for 19 coming out, and where we're planning on the things happening. I know that we have pressures from other things outside the community that have asked for certain things to happen that we need to get 19 to be to have. For instance, the granite model change, that's our marching orders for a lot of things, because we need to be using the model that our corporations doing, not another corporation's doing, and little things like that, which I understand is that it seems like a reasonable, or seems like a major change, but that's just kind of happened with Rel AI, right? And that whole narrative. This is the aspect of that, but hopefully it'll everything become more transparent after we get the last little bit of this ironed out, and then things will be a little bit more vocal. But I think the TLDR of your thing is look at the milestone for the next release, and work backwards from there. Nathan, is that about right?
Yes, I want 100% JJ. You hit the nail right on the head. And I also just want to plug the Thursday CLI call, where, I mean, this isn't, we've talked about, and I think we need to probably, not this meeting, but maybe next meeting, I'll bring this up community wise, maybe doing a call for the libraries, the back end libraries, but we do have a call for the CLI. That call was neglected for a while, but we are making a concerted effort to bring that back and have that be where more of the planning and communication and decision making around the CLI happens. So right now I can tell you that a lot of the maintainer team is going through the sort of backlog we have in the CLI repo. We have a big backlog from the 18 sort of life cycle. So we've been adding a lot of things to the 19 milestone. We've been trying to close things that are irrelevant. We've been trying to reach out to folks that opened issues originally, and we're trying to now get this down to a point where we can start doing regular reviews of the milestone in those community calls, and we can sort of have more of an open conversation as to what is going into releases, what is planned for releases, give folks the opportunity to either add work items or work on assigned work items for releases. So I just wanted to plug that call. We're going to start doing that this week, hopefully in coming weeks. But yeah.
Cool. BJ?
Yeah, that's great. I think we need to get that going again. But one I guess point maybe where we disagree is I think that most people see the CLI as the entirety of the project. They don't really distinguish that there's a SDG part and an eval part and a training part. And so to some degree, having a library calls like that is useful only for the teams that work on it. But anybody else who's using the project and interacting with it only ever interacts with it through the CLI. And so they need, I think, a place where they can go and ask questions about SDG. I'm using the CLI, did ILab data generate, blah happened. What should I do, or what can be fixed? And so I think from a community point of view, it would be useful that there was a call where people could go and talk about the CLI sort of holistically, rather than being said, wow, you need to go to this other call on SDG.
Well, isn't that 2 calls anyway? I mean, I described 2 calls. It sounds like you're also describing 2 calls.
Well, I'm saying there should be one. It should be called the open source CLI call, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's where I can, if I use the CLI and any command in it, I can go there and talk, and not be basically suggested to defer to the, oh, you were using the train thing. You should go to this train call and talk to them.
I mean, sure, but what I would say to that is like that sounds nice, but I would be surprised if we were able to fit in both actual development planning as well as like Q&A, like in a 55-minute call. I mean, it sounds like that's something that the office hours would be good for. And from what I hear is that it sounds like those office hours are being pretty sparsely attended. So.
Right. I'm also not sure that office hours is staffed with the people that can get into that level of technical detail. JJ's there holding down the fort, but he can't necessarily answer complicated questions about how this SDG option is operating.
You think so, BJ. You think.
No, I see your point, BJ.
We can revisit like the whole office hours / more calls, because I don't think we want to necessarily have a bunch of calls for the sake of having a lot of calls, but I do see the benefit of having a separate call for maybe the back end, which, you know, we may not have separate SDG eval training calls, but like a back end call, and let's, you know, start with one call for that and see how useful it is, how many people attend, whether we get benefit out of it, and then, you know, if we want to merge that call, if not, we can decide, because if we don't try, we won't know, right? So
I think this is a case where we want to be careful to make sure that the communication structure does not reflect the organizational structure of the project.
Got it. Yes, good point. Marty?
Yeah, I'm not going to say any more of this because I think this is a tricky thing to work out, but it's a really good topic. So can we bring it off somewhere offline where we can start putting people's opinions in and try and get what we're trying to get across and what we're trying to solve? Because I don't know, can we solve this just now? And then you've the danger of putting loads of meetings again. But I think it's a very valid point. Like, is it something we discuss out on the Slack, BJ, and you kick off a thread, and you know, you ask the people that are on here now, and then people get their opinions in there? Because I don't think this is anything you could solve now unless we sit down with 10 beers for the whole night, and then we forget what we came up with. So yeah.
Don't tell me with a good time, Mark.
So what do you think, BJ? Would that be a good way to try and see where we can get you on this?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think it's basically, I fully support a beer summit. But I think, you know, the challenge is, how do we want to organize these calls, right? What's their purpose, right? And I think that we just perhaps have maybe too narrowly construed the CLI call's purpose to limit it to you know, certain areas of the organizational structure. So yeah, I think we should figure out how that's done. I'm not sure if that's a dev docky thing or just chit-chatting in the Slack.
We'll start with a thread in Slack, and then, because as you can see here, we're misconstruing, you know, we're not, all of us have different things we're thinking of. So by putting it down in Slack, it's always easier then, because you have to think about it, and then you have to say, all right, is that what it is? And we can go over and back, and then we can see what's the next step after that. Is it a dev doc, or we come back to the community call, and we try and resolve it with pistols at 12 paces. Sorry, I'm in joke mode in the afternoon here.
Yeah, I agree. Start with Slack, and we can hash some ideas out, and we can move to, you know, whether it's a GitHub issue or mailing list, or even this meeting, of course, to get more feedback.
More importantly, who's Marty's second? If we're doing pistols and 10 paces, we gotta figure out who everyone's seconds are before we start doing that conversation. No,
Depends on how good a shot he is, you know,
yeah, that's a good point.
or how good a shot his opponent is.
This is starting to remind me of John Wick. So I think we need to call it a day, folks.
Let's stop the recording and before we continue. All right. Thanks, everyone. Is there anything last minute comment before we end? If not, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, JJ, for doing the recording and sharing screen. And we'll see you next week, same time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Thanks, JJ. Thanks again.